Hello and welcome to our ho-ho hot stove edition of Pro Baseball World Tour here on RGC Multimedia. It's Rick Crabb, and joining me from his palatial estate and spring training site in Florida, Mr. Eric Marinback. Before we get started, Eric, I want to send a shout out to your mother, Susan Marinback, who has supported the show and has commented a lot, and we appreciate her support as we do all of our listeners. And for everyone who is listening, whatever you celebrate, some of you folks just been celebrating Hanukkah over the weekend. Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Happy Winter Solstice, Happy Kwanzaa. If you're Ren and Stimpy, Happy Joy. And Festivus for the rest of us. I don't know. Did I leave anybody else out, Eric? But I want to include everybody here. So, but anyway.
I think you covered it, and I am just glad that as a Jewish person, we did not burn the house down with all the 8 types of candles.
Oh, there you go. Okay, well, that is definitely a plus. Good for you.
You always hear, during the Hanukkah holiday, because Jews, for some reason, are big on candles. Whether it be Friday night Sabbath or 8 nights worth of Hanukkah or certain other holidays where they do the candle pit, and every night you don't burn the house down because of bad candles, bad tacos, whatever, that's always a good thing.
Yeah. Gefilte fish, latkes, well, yeah, that's cool. Well, anyway, folks, happy holidays to each and everyone out there. So, all right, Eric. Well, we're going to celebrate the holidays how we celebrate every week, watching baseball and talking about it. We'll start definitely with the leagues in the Caribbean, as you monitor closer than anyone. And definitely, as we joked about off of the air, and which is actually a half joke because there is truth to it. Your Spanish is much more fluent than mine, and especially a pronunciation of Spanish names. So, I guess we'll start off with the Dominican Republic. Start off with the standings and your observations of baseball down there during the week.
Okay, very cool. And I will cut up from my Spanish accent because otherwise I will go into my preliminary Speedy Gonzalez, and I really don't want to do that.
No.
Right now, standings in the Dominican are as follows. The Toros del Este are 16-12. Right behind them at 16-13 are the Águilas de Bahia. In third place with a record of actually 13-13, surprise, because they're normally bottom feeders. It's a tie between the Gigantes de Cibao and the Estrellas Orientales. Close behind at 14-16 is the Leones del Escogido. And rounding out the cellar dwellers as of this point, it's the Tigres de Licey at 11-16.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The game that I'm watching actually right now, the Tigres are playing the Estrellas. It's 1-1 in the third inning. There's a couple of little side notes. First of all, the starting pitchers, both Yankees. Albert Abreu for the Tigres, and for the Estrellas is Domingo Acevedo. I've been friends with Domingo for years. Known him ever since rookie ball at Cat Island. Good kid, tall kid, never caught a break. Yankees actually designated for assignment a couple of times, but they keep bringing him back because I think he's good.
Right. Well, I mean, it's interesting. I think I remember you commenting a few weeks ago there was another matchup. Was it with the Dominican, or was it another league where you had two Yankees pitchers going, or two Yankees teammates going at it for different teams?
It was probably something to do with the Toros because they have Domingo Germán and and probably, what can we say, they've also got Davey Garcia.
Okay.
So, a lot of Yankees are in the Dominican League right now.
Well, it sounds like it's a good pipeline of talent for them. So, I mean, a lot of major league teams have drafted players from there, but it's. I don't know. It sounds like a positive thing for the Yankees. I mean, they've done well internationally scouting. Well, scouting period, but especially internationally. But so, I don't know.
Just a little side note. They say that this week the Australians will have suspended Major Leaguer Robinson Cano join them.
No kidding.
It's always a habit, I don't know why, that even if a player gets suspended from the major leagues, it does not affect winter leagues. So people like Cano, actually former Met who was banned from the game, and I think he got reinstated, Henry Mejia. He's also on the Toros. He's been pitching quite well lately, and the Mets actually, believe it or not, might give him a shot now that he's reinstated in the game. And I'm sure you looked at the transactions late last week. They actually lost Michael Watt in free agency to the Tampa Bay Rays. So, who knows? That could work.
Yeah, but then it involves the Mets, so something could go wrong with it too. So who knows? But
Which usually when it comes to the Mets.
What's that?
Which something usually happens on the downside when it comes to the Mets anyway.
Oh, no doubt. All right. Yeah, and as we were talking on the air, it looks like you were not only monitoring the Dominican Republic, but you're also monitoring action in Mexico. What's your observations down there? Anything that you noticed in the past week, or what's going on at the moment?
Well, let's see what we got here. There are actually 3 games going on in Mexico tonight. And actually, the only one that's really in play as we speak, the Yaquis de Ciudad Obregón are leading the Real de Mazatlán. Oh, I take that back. It's Mazatlán leads the Yaquis 8-6, and it's in the bottom half of the 5th. So, it gets to be a little crazy there in the Mexican League.
Okay.
And they actually have fans in the stand, so.
Now.
It's still over there,
Yeah. Now, are the fans wearing masks in there? And folks, I will explain why I'm asking this question now, because you would think it would be common sense watching other leagues and other teams and other sports. Some allow fans, some do not, and the ones who have allowed fans, such as KBO late in the season and Major League Baseball in the World Series, they had fans wearing masks. Did it seem like they were following proper COVID protocols in the Mexican games that you've seen, Eric? Or?
It's mixed. It's not mandatory over there. It's not mandatory in Nicaragua. Nicaragua either, where they seem to not be wearing masks.
Interesting.
Obviously selected according to the country.
Right. I guess that's true everywhere in all situations regarding that, Eric. But I don't know. I would think. Yeah.
Even in the United States, you got mask believers, mask non-believers, people that say they've never had the freedom, and if they get sick, so be it. It's all the guys.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, it can change every 5 minutes, which is kind of dumb.
I couldn't agree more.
We do. Anyway, standings in Mexico, and I'm only going by total record, not my first and second half. The Yankees, they feel that over home. They have a record of 32-17. Then in second, we've got the Venezuela Sheriff. They're from the field at 28-19. The Aldo Bananas, they got Saturday. That's a mouthful. Luckily, I can say it relatively quick. They're 26-22. The Charlotte de Janito has actually played the most games in the league, along with the Mayas de Navajo, the very four prosecutors. The Charlottes are 27-23. The Palaceros de Coyoacán, my favorite, people of China, are the Mazatlan at 25-24. The Águilas de Mexicali are even at 24-24. And one game under 500 are the Sultanes de Monterrey. The Mayos de Navajo are 19-31, excuse me. And then rounding out the field, the good old Canaries or Cañeros de los Mochis at 14-35.
Okay.
Like I said, there's only 3 games going on tonight as a whole, one of which is in action, the other 2 are later, and we'll count difference.
Okay. All right. Well, and I was curious about Mexico, and I think it might not have to do with the actual league as it does with the app that sometimes we use for the standings and such. Why? And it seems like some leagues, they would actually break it down as far as like the first half or second half like they do with the CPBL. I don't understand why they don't do that with this Mexican league, unless... Now, does that league actually do the 2-half system, or...?
It's possible that scoreboard.com does not even recognize that, which was how you and I were both doing the standings. I think, and I'll look at it as I babble, that the actual Mexican players themselves split it between the 2. I'll check that out as I babble here. Mm-hmm. So you can actually fill in with that, because I deal specifically, okay, Colombian, let's see, statistics. Aha! Yeah, they do. Yeah, the league itself actually splits it between the first half and the second half, and then overall.
Okay.
So if you really wanted to, we could split it up. But basically, the Yankees of Obregón have dominated the entire season, first half and second. The first half they finished basically 21-8, so they hit butt.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, I was just curious about that. Like I said, I don't know. Scoreboard.com's been hit or miss with us. I relied on them a lot earlier on, but then, especially when we try to report like the NPB, it seemed like there were some inconsistencies there. So, not trying to throw Scoreboard.com under the bus, but I'm just pointing that out. So,
I'll throw anybody under the bus. I just don't care.
Right.
I have no preference towards any country. I will throw anybody under the bus and drop that.
Well, there's one country that I'll talk about later on. Might not throw them under the bus. I might throw them onto the Barbie, though. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on with there, but we will get to that later on. We are still staying in the Caribbean, where there is positive and there is live baseball, and majority, if not all, their teams are playing. One country in league, for example, Venezuela. I don't know, Eric, what have you seen from that league over the past week? Or
I've been watching most of the games over there. Because the particular league that I'm thinking of, actually the TV channel that I'm thinking of, they've been streaming their game on our Spanish cable system pretty much on the weekends only, like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday night.
Okay.
But I believe this weekend, or this week, being that it's a holiday week, that they are doing it anywhere from Wednesday on, which is really good. I mean, I can access games during the heck I want anyway.
Right, yeah. Now, is it that because so that particular network that's just like what they select for the week, or is it do they have like I don't know, keep Monday and Tuesdays for travel days, or how does that work?
No. They've been playing games Tuesday through Sunday, and as I can actually view Venezuela games streaming online 6 or 7 days a week, depending on who's playing when.
Right.
It's just the regular cable through Xfinity down here in Florida. They're doing games on that particular channel, TVV, seemingly on the weekends only, but again, being that it's towards the end of the season or holiday time, I don't know. It could be coincidental, I don't know. But they're doing it from Wednesday on, which is a good thing for me, because then I don't have to switch inputs.
There you go. Okay, it's all about convenience. So
we've got standings over there. We're going to go with, and there's 2 divisions, by the way. We'll go with the West Division first with the Cardinals at 14-9. Then the Bravos de Margarita at 14-10. So it's like one more game. The Navegantes de Magallanes are at 12-10. Rounding up that division is the Águilas de Zulia at 10-13. We go to the Central, and the Caribes de Anzuategui are at 13-11. The Leones de Caracas are even at 12-12. Then the Tigres de Aragua are 10-12. And last but not least, those good old Sharks, the Tiburones de La Guaya at 7-15. I love their uniforms. I can't help it.
yeah, I guess it's like a Hanwha thing with them. I saw their unis; they look pretty cool too. But yeah, that's a shame.
Unfortunately, they haven't caught on to the Baby Shark thing, which maybe is a good thing, but I don't know.
Well, I don't know. Maybe we can put them in touch with the Dinos, get their cheerleaders to teach them how it's done. But
Or the Reckoning Monkeys.
Okay, them as well. Sure.
Need to do a little version.
All right.
Okay. What else do we got?
Well, I want to talk to you a little bit about the Columbia League. I have a few questions to ask you about that with them, Eric. First of all, how many teams are there actually in that league in Columbia?
Okay, it seems to be that there are only 4 teams in there.
That
kind of like the CPBL. What they did do, though, and at least I didn't realize it at first, but I'm starting to realize it. I think it took me a week to figure it out. They're in a bubble. So both games, you get 2 games played in a day. One normally at like 2 in the afternoon. The other more like 8:30, 9 o'clock. And this is our time, basically. And they're both being played in Barranquilla at the stadium named after former Marlin and Cardinal Edgar Renteria, who was one of Columbia's biggest stars.
Interesting. I was going to say, because I noticed watching those games too, they have all 4 teams' logos kind of like in foul territory. It kind of reminded me of the USPBL that we covered like back in the summer, where it's like basically it's 4 teams all sharing the stadium, and then just I don't know, scheduling who would be home team and or visitor or whatever. But okay, I wondered about that.
It seems to be a bubble situation, and it seems to be working out. I didn't notice if there were fans in there, though.
Okay. I want to talk about that. The one particular game I watched, didn't look like there were any fans. But what was interesting, though, was I watched, it was a game between, and this is the only time I'm going to try to pronounce these teams' names, but I'm doing it just for this particular game. It was the Chiamanes, the Alligators, against the Vaqueros, the Cowboys. There was a game I was watching, and of course, the commentary was in Spanish since it was the Colombian Caribe network. But I heard a lot of commentary in the background, some of it in English. And I'm thinking, wow, that was one really loud fan. But then I watched the game a little further, seeing like shots from foul balls and stuff. There wasn't anyone in the stands. Come to find out, it was the manager of the Vaqueros, who was really bitter about a strike call. And he was still complaining about it several batters later. And this man was channeling his inner Billy Martin or Earl Weaver. And it got to the point where another call went against his team, and he actually got in the umpire's face. He came out, he actually lifted his gator mask, and then was arguing, getting in their face, and he was saying choice words not only in Spanish, but also in English. And I'm guessing Caribe does not have a 10-second delay for their broadcast, or they don't care if there's profanity in English, because I heard him say, and I'll quote, "I'm getting tired of your shit, bro," to the umpire. And then you heard him cussing and saying that fucking bullshit and all this. He was going off. If I'm not mistaken there, isn't this basically like network TV in Colombia? It would be like, I don't know, like a NBC or ESPN airing it, and I don't know, maybe having like, I don't know, like the ESPN Sunday Night Baseball and having a Latino player cussing in Spanish and not bleeping him or anything like that. I thought it was kind of odd. I don't know if you saw that game or you've seen any other games where that's happened down there or what. I don't know.
Yeah, like I said, I'm trying to remember if I actually saw that game. You know what? It doesn't surprise me. First of all, the only real channels that are covering that, it's one network that's got its own YouTube channel called the Telecaribe Network.
Okay.
They don't pick up censors. Needless to say that they can get quite verbal.
Yeah. I'd say because, I was just watching, like, the commercials for their other programming. They seem to have, like, almost like, I don't know, Today Show type TV shows. They have, like, home improvement shows. They have, like, other types of non-sports programming that you would expect, like, daytime TV here in an American network. And then you hear this manager calling the umpire, all of George Carlin's dirty words. It was ridiculous.
I might have to use that in the show. The 7 words you can't say in a baseball game, or?
Yeah, pretty much.
No, but the Catholic League is pretty cool. You've also got the Nicaragua League, which is pretty cool, where they have, their own little commentator thing, and like I said, their stands in the stands over there, and you're definitely getting the total taste of it.
Okay.
Cuba, not so much. They're still pretty much broadcasting their games sporadically over YouTube or the actual network Telerebelde, but it's definitely a lot less than it used to be.
Right.
And it could be like a lack of talent, like I've been saying before, and the popularity is kind of going down other than, the Cuban population themselves.
Mm-hmm. Now, I wonder, Eric, and maybe it's different in Cuba. I mean, they've been known for being kind of a totalitarian type of climate there. And I know some countries that govern that way, such as North Korea, limit, if not totally block out internet access to other countries. I'm wondering if some people there are tuning in to watch more, I don't know, Venezuelan ball or Dominican Republic ball or Mexico, or just games from other countries that are more entertaining for them. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't see a correlation, although I have been seeing, and maybe this has something to do with what you just said. There's a lot of Cuban players that are sprouting up in other Caribbean leagues. I do notice a buddy of mine just got hooked up with the Culiacan Tomateros, a guy named Yowoki Bear. So he hooked up with Culiacan about a week and a half ago.
Okay.
Been there every day, center fielder ever since. You've got other Cubans that are around the Dominican leagues, Venezuelan leagues. If it has anything to do whatsoever with possible trying to get more exposure and or possibly defecting, who knows? I'm not advocating it, but
right.
It could be another avenue.
And now, Eric, let me ask you this: since you monitor a lot of these different leagues, is the pay structure different, say, in Mexico or Venezuela compared to Cuba? I mean, could these players, I mean, not only defection, but also be going for a bigger payday?
No clue. I never know the actual pay structure in any of the leagues. So as far as that goes, I am totally clueless.
Yeah.
If there's any difference between the Mexican league, the Dominican, Venezuela, or so on.
Especially Mexico. I mean, Mexico has a lot of big markets in that country, and I mean, if the way they support their soccer teams is any indication of how they support their baseball, I mean, I would imagine they might do well with payroll or whatever. But
right. I would think, though, and this is just thinking out loud as I'm talking, that the leagues themselves get somewhat of a stipend during the Caribbean World Series. And that has nothing to do with the teams that each country will represent, but I think the country in general gets it.
Okay.
Again, I'm not sure.
Well, it kind of makes sense. I mean, it's to kind of, I guess, keep those I don't want to say keep them afloat, but keep them, I guess, solvent or operative or whatever, so they can bring their championship teams over in this tournament. I mean, that makes sense. That's to, keep the leagues going. So.
Well, don't forget, if you're looking at a lot of these games, which obviously I'm trying to get you indoctrinated in it.
Mm-hmm.
I've been watching a lot, and if you look at everybody's jersey in these Caribbean leagues, there are sponsor patches galore.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I saw that.
And it all depends, on the league itself, but the sponsorship is big fun.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, basically they're saying to NASCAR, hold my beer with it. I agree. I mean, it's like, I've seen you'd see 3 on the front of the jersey, 2 or 3 on the back of the jersey. I thought one team, I think I even saw some on their pant legs, on their shins. It was kind of weird. But, it's they're kind of all right, well, let's see. We have a little bit of room left on this uniform. Let's see if we can get Corona here, too. Yeah, okay. But, yeah, that's what it looked like. But, it's... But, I mean...
My jersey from Mike Worry that I told you about weeks ago from the Caneros, I mean, I don't have it on me because it's back at church. I could probably count maybe 10 different sponsors on it. some people would think it's cool. Some people would think it's kind of cartoonish. I get a kick out of it. It's it's a representative of the country as far as I'm concerned. I don't really care.
Yeah, I mean, more countries do it than not. I mean, I watch soccer, so I'm used to it. I think the people who object are just people in this country who aren't used to seeing that, or it's like, oh my god, that's tacky or whatever. But I mean, leagues are now starting to do it anyway. I mean, you've seen some leagues like, I don't know, the NBA and WNBA are starting to do that more, and I don't know, some college teams, and I don't know, Major League Baseball, I think, was even talking about putting logo patches and stuff. So, I mean,
they were about it, and then they nixed it because they felt that it was bastardizing the jersey. I don't think so. Put on your big boy pants.
Right.
If you're going to change the style of the jersey because of the sponsor logo just to get some extra cash, why not?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on the sport too. I mean, some jerseys. I mean, baseball and hockey. I think you might be able to get away with more advertising. Basketball and football might be difficult just because of the styles of the jerseys. It's like where their numbers are, and just, I don't know, I guess fabric or how the jerseys are cut. It's kind of, I don't know. I guess it depends on the sport, I guess.
International hockey jerseys are the same way, where they've got a lot of sponsor patches on there. I know from watching some Russia games on YouTube channel that they've got a load of patches on there.
Right. And also on the ice, too, a lot of logos and stuff. I mean, you didn't have... Yeah. Like on the ice and on the courts and stuff, but you see that more internationally. Alright. Okay, well, alright, well, Eric, do you have anything else to comment about any of the Caribbean nations or anywhere else in that part of the world as far as any leagues, any teams, anything?
Well, like I said, I've got my Dominican game on. That's in-game box score as we speak. The Estrellas Orientales now lead the Tigres by a score of 4-1. So Abreu didn't do so well. Domingo Acevedo did really well in his 4 innings of work. And now it's up to other pitchers as they go by pitch counts.
Okay. Fair enough. Alright, folks, well, listen, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to cover some hot stove news, and also, we're going to cover a league that tried to open this past weekend. We will get into that shortly. You are listening to Pro Baseball World Tour here on RGC Multimedia. We'll be right back. Alright, folks, welcome back to Pro Baseball World Tour here on RGC Multimedia. Rick Crabb, Eric Marenbach. And as I mentioned before the break, we had one league that was expected to open. They did open partially, but they had a few snags along the way. We're talking about the Australian Baseball League. Now, Eric, I was looking forward to watching the games. I still am. I'm hoping they'll get things straightened out, but I mean, they had a rough weekend this week. I mean, a lot of it due to COVID. We had a few things happen. We had COVID. Because of that, we had the province of South Wales was actually, the border to it was closed off because of a COVID outbreak at some beaches in Sydney. And when I found out that a lot of the players in the league, not just for the Sydney Blue Sox, live in Sydney. And a lot of them are foreign players, a lot of them from the United States. They've been quarantined for 2 weeks. I know this from watching a podcast from the Sydney Blue Sox themselves and interviewing each player, and it was kind of like a half joke of, okay, well, what was your view from the hotel room while you were quarantined, and each of them would give different answers, that kind of thing. Well, as a result, there were a few games that were canceled, postponed, and rearranged. For example, there was supposed to be a 4-game series between the Sydney Blue Sox and the defending champion Melbourne Aces. Well, because of the outbreak, that series was cut short to only 2 games. Meanwhile, there was supposed to be a series between the Canberra Cavalry and the Perth Heat. But the Cavalry, unfortunately, didn't have enough players to field a team in Perth because of the forced quarantines, because of the restrictions. So, the Brisbane Bandits, at the last minute, sent their futures team to play a few games against Perth. So, the fans in Perth still got to see some baseball, although they were basically exhibition games. But a few things with that, Eric. I mean, first of all, you had 2 teams already drop out for this season because of COVID, the Geelong, Korea, and the Auckland, New Zealand teams. You're down to 6 teams, okay? But you had 2 actual Major League ABL teams play. You had the Perth Heat, okay? You had them play the Futures team for the Brisbane Bandits. Brisbane Bandits and the Adelaide Giants didn't play any games at all. I don't understand why one of those teams couldn't have stepped up. I mean, it sounded similar to what happened with Major League Baseball at the beginning when you had the Miami Corona Fish test positive playing the Phillies, and as a result, the Yankees who were supposed to play the Phillies didn't want to come to Philadelphia because of fear of an outbreak, so they wound up playing the Orioles instead. The Phillies had to postpone a few games. A few other teams had to postpone a few games. I mean, it was a mess. And, I mean, that was with the major MLB, which has several teams. I mean, ABL can't afford to do that. It's only 6 teams, and yet really only had 3 of them play. Okay.
The whole thing did not make any sense for me at all.
No.
I mean, okay, Manny's injured or whatever, so he's not coming to Sydney, at least for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Brisbane, they had a few guys from their major team, especially their starting pitching. But all that was basically doing, they called it a futures thing and they made it more of an exhibition where Perth wound up winning, I believe, both of the games.
Oh, they did.
And by the way, did you see the jerseys that they were wearing for the second game?
Yeah, I did.
Jerseys, I thought those were really, really cool.
Yeah, they did. Perth Heat, they kind of just... I watched like a few older games to catch up and just going through their website. They're kind of, I don't know, to me they're almost like the Oregon Ducks of the ABL because they have so many different jersey and uniform combinations. I even saw one that they actually sold on their website. They had a Christmas-themed baseball jersey that they wear during their season. But, few other observations about that. And as you mentioned, Manny Ramirez, who a lot of people were curious to see how Manny would be Manny down there, but turned out Manny would be AWOL. And the news report they emphasized it has nothing to do with COVID, and it might not be, but I mean, you and I were joking about basically, being on kind of Tom Brady-like and not necessarily being the toughest or manliest of athletes, but I also wonder, too, he was, in his prime, he played during that era, Eric. I mean, I'm wondering I don't know how strict their testing is for steroids or PEDs or any other additives are in that country, but I'm wondering if that had anything to do with it, too.
I would doubt it. Like I said, when we did the Dominican at the end of the show, at the beginning of the show, any sort of suspension suspensions on the major league level do not carry over internationally. So I don't think anything like that is related at all.
Well, I'm not saying carrying over major leagues, but I mean, maybe like before he tests, I mean, they have like these players quarantined. I mean, just for like, I don't know, almost like here, like a state athletic convention, just kind of like just before they, come to, I mean, a separate and exclusive to the ABL, when they come in, they test them before they start. I don't know.
Honestly, I don't think that they are tested in Australia or any of the Caribbean leagues. So, I don't think it has anything to do with it. I could be wrong.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'm definitely say, hey, you were nailed for female hormone and you can't play.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the only real competition that you have with the female hormones are the actual Australian cheerleaders who are a hell of a lot better looking than Manny. In my opinion, anyway.
Yeah. I think you'd have several people agree with you. Another observation with that league, though, Eric. I watched the Perth versus Brisbane Futures games like you did. I also saw highlights of Sydney and Melbourne. Now, one story with that, the Sydney Blue Sox, they actually signed an exclusive deal for their games with a company called Sportsflix, which is an online streaming service. You can pay by the month or pay by the year. And looks like they had several teams in several leagues. They had Chelsea from the Premier League. They had mixed martial arts, a lot of different things. Watching their highlights, though, Eric, if I subscribed to that service, look, I did not subscribe to that service, and I want my money back from them now. That's how poor I thought it was. Because it was like, for some reason, the Perth Heat games, I don't know if it was a local Perth Heat Yes Network or if it was like the ABL network or something. It seemed like the camera work for the games in Perth were by far superior to that of what happened in Sydney.
Okay. I can honestly say, first of all, the Brisbane Perth game was done by their normal broadcasting team that has been doing the YouTube games. Paul Morgan and I forget who the other guy was. But they've had guys that do games remotely because of guys that do the independent league. Dan One is somebody that has been involved with the Frontier League for years, and he'll do some games from his home. But Paul Morgan is one of the best around international players.
Well, I wasn't even talking about the announce team. I mean, from what I only heard a little bit from the Sydney games. The announcers sound okay with that. My problem was with the cameras. In Perth, it seemed like what you would expect from a professional broadcast. I mean, you had cameras, behind, facing the batter, with the pitcher's back to the camera. You had the outfield shots. You had the foul ball shots following the ball itself. The Sydney games, it looked like they only had 3 cameras. You had the camera facing the batter. You had a camera at the batter's box. And then you had a camera looked like it was above like the third base dugout or whatever. And you could see if a runner was coming to third base, that was fine. But if anybody hit a ball, you had to strictly rely on the audio of the announcer saying where the ball was going because you could not see it. They did not have any close-ups of a camera like zooming in on like a right fielder about to catch a ball or anything like that. It was horrible. I mean, some of those USPBL games had, I think, better camera coverage than this. And I mean, for them to charge $50 Australian, which, I don't know, I'm guessing, it's probably like 30, 40 American, I'm guessing.
Around 40, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, if you're figuring, okay, I want to pay for that for a year, because I think they were counting on people watching the Manny show, okay? They got to get their act together. I mean, if they're going to do an exclusive rights to a team like that, and granted, the Sydney Blue Sox Stadium, it looked like half the size of maybe like a Carolina League stadium, but still Sydney's a big market. You can't do that. I mean, if you're going to be a successful business model, I don't know.
Well, that's why, if you remember when they first proposed it, and I looked at the price, and, you know, they did it on the monthly or the yearly. Even for the monthly, in my opinion, it wasn't worth it, especially when you were getting Australian games for free.
Right.
And I don't, you know, over YouTube, I don't care if there's a Manny show. And at this point, there's no Manny show. So to pay that amount of money for the prospect of, you know, getting Chelsea or some of the premier teams, you know, and putting other sports in there, you know, kind of like a knockoff of the old Mexico server with the internet TV servers, I wouldn't do it. And that's why I balked at it.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to see what it looked like first, you know, from YouTube and the highlights and all that before I dove into it. I mean, granted, I did financially invest in that league somewhat because they did have cool merch, and I'll probably do some more. You know, I'm not going to. I don't want to completely crap on the ABL, but it's just.
No, I wouldn't crap on it either. Merch-wise, they are second to none. You know, if you want to go for certain things, I'm sure they sold a heck of a lot of merchandise of Manny before he decided to do his thing.
Right.
I mean, even in the independent leagues, okay, I can remember when the Long Island Ducks were supposed to get guys like Alex Arias and or Vladimir Guerrero to join their team. And all through the season, you kept on hearing, oh, the contracts are all said and done. They're going to be joining the team. They're going to be joining the team. They're going to be joining the team. Push came to shove. They never joined the team. Neither one of them. Similar to government, I guess. They were just trying to cover their ass as far as making excuses for them.
Right.
It was kind of pathetic, to say the least.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Yeah, that's, I mean, and a lot of minor league teams, I mean, I guess it can't really market their players unless it's past players with bobbleheads and that kind of thing. And I remember a few years ago, my nephew really liked Tim Tebow. And he liked him as a football player, and he liked him afterwards. And I wanted to get tickets to see him with the Birmingham Rumble Ponies in Double A against the Bowie Bay Sox. They were supposed to come. And of course, what happened? Mr. Tebow got hurt, I think, in a weekend series prior to coming to Bowie, and he didn't make it. So it was like the Bowie Bay Sox ticket sales, they went from almost being sold out to like, okay, you know, quarter of their capacity, mainly because of that game. It's just, but I mean, and so then it was like, I don't know, it was close to my nephew's birthday. I was going to get him a T-shirt from their website, from Birmingham's website, and they were sold out. So
yeah, well, with guys like Tebow, who never panned out at all, but because he was such a phenom with the University of Florida in college football, he turned into like this cult thing. And the second he went to baseball, I honestly thought it was like a carnival sideshow.
right,
The man never showed any sort of potential whatsoever. And when they promoted him to Double A, which I thought was a complete joke, the first year that he was there with Bayman, they actually put him on the All-Star team. To have 75 on an all-star team, I'd be embarrassed for the league. I don't care how good you are in college football or how much of a prayer monger you are in church, not to be offensive to any of the religious people out there, but
are they like the major? Is the Eastern League All-Stars is like major leagues where it's based on fan vote? Maybe it's just a bunch of Tim Tebow goobers who are flooding the box.
No, they put him on there just to put fans in the seats.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I gotcha.
And it was a complete joke to have him on there.
Yeah, I would agree.
The guy was just low in his 230s, and here he is on an all-star team.
Hmm.
And I'm trying to remember, but I think he struck out 2 or 3 times.
And you figure, too, Double-A, even though it's supposedly 2 levels below the major leagues, a lot of teams, that's where basically a lot of teams have their players skip from Double-A to the majors. Really, that's like almost their top league, because usually Triple-A, it's either 4A players or older players or some reason, players just don't work out. Yeah.
Well, what has been happening up until this year with the restructuring, for the most part, the Double-A teams geographically were actually closer than the Triple-A teams.
True.
So as far as getting an emergency player to travel the day of the game in case there was all of a sudden an injury, it was a lot easier to get somebody over from the Double-A team than the Triple-A. That's changed with a lot of the restructuring of the league in this new agreement, but it is what it is.
Right. Yeah, and that's one thing I'm sure you, I, and a lot of baseball fans enjoy about a lot of teams have moved their minor league affiliates closer to each other. I mean, here in Baltimore, Bowie's like not even a half hour away. The team that was the Frederick Keys, well, Frederick was actually maybe about an hour away, which was pretty close. They moved to Aberdeen, which is basically 30 minutes north of the city. So, and a lot of people who live there commute to Baltimore. So, they're tickled about that. And their AAA team is still in Norfolk. It's not next door, but it's a short flight, or it's a few hours, and it's near Virginia Beach. So people probably wouldn't mind going there in the summertime too. So No. This particular season, it didn't matter. Nobody could go, and there were no minor leagues, but still, yeah. But normal circumstances, yeah, that would be fun. And with you, you have you have Staten Island nearby. You have, Trenton, I would imagine, is not that far of a drive neither, and Mets fans, Binghamton isn't that far, and you have the Cyclones in Brooklyn. So, they're real close. So Yankees and Mets fans are fortunate in that regard, I would imagine, as well. So.
A lot of that has to do with territorial. When you put an expansion team in, you have to get approval from the rest of the teams in the league, because there's a territorial clause where if you move, I think it's within a 75-mile radius of a major league team, they have the right to veto it.
Right.
That's why when Brooklyn came in, it was actually coincided with Staten Island.
Oh, okay.
When they went to the Penn League. Otherwise, the Yankees farm team in that league at that time was in Oneonta.
Okay.
Which is north. So the only way that the Mets could go from, I believe it was Pittsfield, Mass, to Brooklyn, where the Yankees would have bitched about it right away, is to have Oneonta go to Staten Island
Well, what I've heard this was interesting when the Aberdeen Ironbirds were formed, when they joined the New York Penn League. One team that tried to block that from happening was the Wilmington Blue Rocks, even though they were in the Carolina League. They're probably, I would say, roughly, Eric, maybe like 20, 30 miles apart. They're very close to each other. And Wilmington thought that having a team in Aberdeen would dip into their fan base. But, I mean, in a way I could see that, but Wilmington's kind of a weird market because they're just south of Philadelphia, but they've been affiliated mostly with Kansas City and I think a few years with Boston. So it's like it's not like they're drawing the Phillies fans. They're not drawing the Orioles fans. Aberdeen is an Orioles affiliate, so I mean they kind of like have a built-in market anyway there. But eventually I don't know, they work things out. But I'm wondering now, since they're moving to single A, I don't even know if they're going to be in the Carolina League or not. That would be interesting if they're Aberdeen and Wilmington are button heads, in the same division and all now.
Wilmington is now an affiliate of another team. I think, if I'm not mistaken, if I really wanted to dig, which I might comment on it next week, I think now they're actually affiliated with the National.
Interesting. Okay.
So, because if I remember when the move was made or when the team agreements were being put into place, Wilmington put something on their Twitter thanking the Royals organization, yada, 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 and a quote-unquote Dear John letter. And they were looking forward to the new affiliation with, again, I don't know, I think it was the Nationals.
Huh. That's interesting. I wanted to ask some of my Washington buddies if they know about that, because it's kind of weird that they have their affiliates that farther north or whatever. I mean, it's like I know they had one in Northern Virginia near Fredericksburg, but then other than that, they were in Hagerstown, but now there's nothing in Hagerstown. And then they're double A's in Harrisburg. I have some friends and relatives out there. I was actually thinking of going out to a game there once, but I didn't get a chance because of COVID. But
City Island is great. I love it over there.
What's that?
City Island is great in Harrisburg over there.
Oh, okay.
Love it.
I've driven past there. I've never actually driven into downtown Harrisburg or that part of the island part, but yeah, I have to check that out.
It's more or less pretty much its own island because similar to Pittsburgh, there's a bridge that goes across into the downtown. They close it up for home games.
Huh, interesting.
So it's really a cool thing to go to.
Okay. Like I said, I'll have to check that out. Alright, well, we have some other news, just a little to stay positive about with baseball, and I was going to give the standings to the ABL, but it sounds ridiculous because really you don't have every team playing, so probably week 2 or 3, COVID permitting, we'll be able to give standings for the ABL. So, I mean, I'm not going to talk too much about Perth beating, the futures team for Brisbane. It's like, okay, well, if you don't, then that's more of a story there anyway. But we have a story out of the KBO. It looks like Hanwha signed a new manager. I take that back. He's not a manager. He's a hitting coach. He said, according to this, KBO Eagles hire ex-MLB coach Johnny Washington as new hitting coach. That is according to the Yonhap News agency. And we will go to the agency momentarily. Here we go. This is reported by Mr. Yu Ji-ho. Dateline Seoul, December 20th. The South Korean baseball club Hanwha Eagles announced Sunday they've announced former San Diego Padres hitting coach Johnny Washington. As the new hitting coach for the Korea Baseball Organization Club, Washington will be tasked with improving the league's most anemic offense in the 2020 season. Good for you. The California native joins an international staff led by first-year Venezuelan manager Carlos Suburo, American bench coach Darrell Kennedy, and the U.S.-born Puerto Rican pitching coach Jose Rosado. Though Washington is relatively young for a coach at 36, the former infielder brings a decade of coaching experience across several levels. After coaching in the minors in the Los Angeles Dodgers system, Washington joined the Padres staff as the first base coach in 2017 and became their hitting coach 2 years later. Following that season, Washington interviewed for the Los Angeles Angels managerial position. The Eagles posted the KBO's worst record in 2020 at 46-95-3, behind a dismal offense. They ranked last in the league in these categories: batting average at .245, 551 runs, 79 home runs, 1,189 hits, 1,163 strikeouts, 462 walks, an on-base percentage of .320, and a slugging percentage of .338. So, the Hanwha Eagles have a new hitting coach. I mean, you had asked about the new manager for Hanwha. What do you know about Mr. Washington and any of the other staff that Hanwha is joining? I would imagine you would know especially about Jose Rosado or Carlos Subero.
Subero I knew from Milwaukee. Rosado, I'm trying to remember. I believe he was a minor league pitching coach in the Cubs chain. And if I really dig back, I think the Yankees had him in like short season. So I actually think he's a half-decent pitching coach. It's going to be interesting in the KBO next year because a lot of players seem to be moving around in all the Asian leagues. I noticed this week alone. Okay, Despite went back to KT. They also brought back William Cuevas. But you've got hitters moving into the KBO, like Jose Peralez now with Tampa Lions. They also brought back Ben Lively, the former Philly. But Doosan, okay, they walked Raul Alcantara to Japan. Who did they get back as far as a foreign pitcher? They definitely downgraded because Walker Lockett, who was a former Met slug and apparently either is in negotiations with them or just signed with them. Walker Lockett is a guy who's been in 3 organizations within the past 6 months.
Oh, gosh.
He went from the Mets to Seattle, and I think he actually went on waivers to Toronto. So before Toronto pretty much released him to go to the KBO, they actually had to take him off the 40-man roster. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on there with him. But to go from Alcantara, a guy who pretty much rolled the KBO along with Flexen, to Walker Lockett, definitely downgrade.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And then, of course, there was the big splash of Mel Rojas leaving KT to go to Hanshin in Japan. So, like I said, it's a lot of players moving around throughout the Asian leagues. So,
I don't know whether it's, again, like we discussed last week, maybe a slap in the face to the KBO, even though it's not supposed to be that. You know, you're supposed to be growing each league that much more independently, but Japan profited from what the KBO was.
right.
For sure.
Well, I mean, it definitely sounds mercenary, you know, but it just sounds to me like Rojas just wanted a bigger payday, and there was some drama attached to it. And, you know, like you said, Hanshin is benefiting from Rojas being popular in that league and doing well. So they rolled out the yen and brought him over. So, I mean, that happens all the time in sports. That happens within this country with teams and stuff. But that's a shame for the KBO and for their fans and for KT fans. I mean, to lose a star player like that. So, but
well, that's why I'm kind of wondering why he didn't hold out a little longer and maybe hope for a major league invite to spring training. I don't know. Maybe there's something more involved in that. But I would think rather than going over to Japan, I would have held out a little longer to see if there was any potential major league life.
Right. Yeah, it makes you wonder.
I would think he would have gotten somewhat of a bigger payday, even in the minors or the non-roster invitee.
Okay. Yeah, you would think, but I'm kind of surprised. Like I said, I thought that major league teams would be clamoring for him, especially with the increased exposure of that league to American audiences. So, but I don't know. Like I said, I mean, my team, who resembles the Hanwha Eagles in many ways, I wouldn't mind seeing Mr. Rojas come over, just to give him, at least kick the tires on him a little bit, see how he would do. But I don't know. There's a reason my team looks and plays like the Hanwha Eagles, so there you go. All right, well, folks, we're going to take another quick break, and when we come back, we're going to conclude the show. I wanted to do, Eric and I were talking about this off the air. We wanted to do something special for this particular episode, and also for a future episode. We're going to make a announcement about that right after this break. You're listening to Pro Baseball World Tour here on RGC Multimedia. We'll be right back. All right, folks, welcome back to Pro Baseball World Tour. Rick Crabb and Eric Marenbach here on RTC Multimedia. As I mentioned before the break, we're during the holiday season, and Eric and I were talking about this, and we thought it would be kind of fun just to mention any holiday memories each of us had as a kid, whether it be related to baseball or not, preferably to baseball. It's kind of difficult, I guess, in this country in a way, because baseball is seen as a spring and summer sport here, but usually you don't get too many things as far as presents or gifties or whatever for that. But Eric, I'll start with you. Was there anything you received as a kid or an adult, any time in your life, as far as any good holiday memories related to baseball or not?
Well, I tell you, for the longest time, my family more or less had a tradition of going to Mexico every year. It started pretty much when I gotta say, somewhere around 8 years old, we found that at that time very underdeveloped city called Puerto Vallarta, where the city was only 2 hotels and 2 basic restaurants in town. We went there for probably a good 40 years, every Christmas and New Year's. And every year it would develop even more hotel-wise, restaurant-wise, club-wise. I got to the point where there were a bunch of regulars that would come down every year, either from New York or from Ohio, Canada, and we used to meet up like once a year. It was tradition. Just, beach during the day, party at night. That was what I did during the Christmas season. Okay, I would watch Winter League Baseball from Mexico in some of the bars over there, but it was basically a party town.
Nice.
that's more or less my Christmas, New Year's type memory. Of getting some presents over there, which more or less the presents were either alcohol related to the bars or beach eye candy.
Nice.
During the day.
Mm-hmm.
Which I would take that in a heartbeat.
I would take all of those in a heartbeat. That sounds amazing, actually. Well, let's see. I'll start off with baseball-related gifts. Like I said, normally Christmas is in winter and baseball it's spring and summer. But normally when I was a kid, my father tried to get me like more football, even though he got me into watching baseball, going to the Orioles games. He was a huge Colts fan, and he bought me all kinds of stuff with that. I even had like one year, I think when I was 5 years old, I had like a whole uniform with a helmet, the shoulder pads, a jersey, all that good stuff. The coolest baseball related gift I think I got for Christmas was a girlfriend actually got me a Baltimore Orioles road jersey. Now, this is how provincial our town is. For years, after I guess the Senators folded, the Orioles kind of catered to the Washington, D.C. market. And they drew a lot of attendance from that area, from the D.C. suburbs in Maryland and from Northern Virginia. So much so, several owners refused to put Baltimore on their road jerseys because they thought they would offend the Washington fans coming up. And a lot of old school Oriole fans who lived in Baltimore were complaining. They remember seeing, like, in the early 60s, like Jim Palmer, they would have Baltimore on that. And it was a big deal for a long time. Well, then they finally decided to do that. And I think it was maybe like a year or two before Buck Showalter came. But anyway, my girlfriend at the time got me one of them, and I still have it to this day, so it's really nice. One tradition I have with my parents, though, and I want to mention this mainly because this is the first Christmas I've had without either one of them. My mother passed away this summer. My father passed away 3 years before. But it's actually a funny story. It's not really sad. One thing he liked to do was play Andy Williams' It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year. But my father, he was a jokester at times. He would play this anytime my sister and I would want to sleep in. He would crank this song on their old Magnavox turntable, okay? He would do this during Christmas. He would do this during Easter. He would do this during Groundhog's Day, 4th of July. Whenever the heck he wanted to do this, he thought it was so funny to wake us up with his damn song. And it got to the point where I grew to hate that song for the longest time. But then, I don't know, you get older, things change. I hear that song, I think of him. And I don't know, it's like, I wish he could come back for me to yell at him for playing that song again, and then probably drink a beer or 2 or 10 with him. So I don't know.
I get yelled at constantly, which is why I have been putting my phone on mute, because my ringtone as well as my morning alarm are both Chinese songs from Taiwan.
Awesome.
That my friend do. And not only are they Chinese, but I usually, when I do have my ringtone on, have it on full volume.
Oh boy.
So when I did do the MP4 ringtone conversion of, at that time, the Lamigo theme song, whatever my cell phone would ring, it scared the shit out of my father. And of course, yeah, that was years ago when he was still in his 70s, but even today, it's, and he's 80 years old now. Forget it. I have to have my phone on silent, otherwise either the ringtone of the old Lamigo song or my alarm of Hot Chick or the other thing that I have on there. Taiwan, and my buddy Daniel Wu, who was, matter of fact, is serving his military services. I think he's got one more week to go, and then I'll finally hear of his experience, which is kind of cool.
Right.
You know, ringtones are cool. The one time when I did go to see some baseball during Winter League, and I scared the crap out of some Yankee farmhands that I knew in Culiacan. Well, my buddy on formerly the Long Island Ducks, but now he's been in Taiwan for now 10 seasons, like Lori. I showed up in Mexico and they all looked like, you gotta be kidding me, dude. It was great. He stayed at the team hotel with the Yankees in Mazatlan, which was really cool.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Yeah, it is funny how music will, I don't know, bring back memories of a lot of things, and usually good ones. But,
oh, yeah. I mean, especially for us, because, okay, pre-shameless plug, Christmas Day is actually not only Christmas Day in the Catholic faith, but it's also my parents' anniversary.
no kidding.
And the only reason why I brought up Catholic faith first is, and I'm not saying this for sure, and I'm not positive about this, so I won't go out on a limb and say that they were the only ones, but to have a Jewish couple married on Christmas Day, there's a little irony in this.
Right. Yeah, that's...
At least it was easy to find a rabbi on Christmas Day because somebody had to work, right?
Right, yeah. I guess... I guess... The other, I don't know, I guess the other semantics with a wedding, I mean, it's like, who would you get to cater? Where would you have it? That kind of thing. I bet that brought some interesting challenges, but that's awesome, though. That's...
I always tell an interesting story when it comes to my dysfunctional family. My father was born actually on Valentine's Day.
Oh, wow.
My mother was born the day after St. Patrick's Day.
Jeez whiz.
So combine the two Jews being married on Christmas Day, and the end of the story happens with me, where I was pretty much born in a convenience store as my birthday falls on a 7-Eleven.
Well, it doesn't sound like either of your parents have any excuses to forget a birthday or anniversary, though, Eric. My goodness, that's funny, though. But that's a cool story.
I love coincidences like that. And I tell the story, and I get a chuckle out of it from everybody.
Well, on that note, I want to make an announcement regarding a couple of episodes that we're going to have of this program. Next week, we're going to have our year-end review. We'll give our weekly report as we usually do, but we'll also list some of our favorite and least favorite things about this year in baseball. And I mean, this year is definitely going to be memorable for so many reasons. Some of them actually good, but it's been a strange year for the sport for sure. And you and I will converse, off the air. We'll plan that for you folks. But I also want to make an announcement too, because of COVID, everything that's going on. A lot of people around the world either, are on lockdown, or depending on where you live, different restrictions. A lot of people can't gather for New Year's Eve. You used to go to, especially in Eric's stomping grounds, a lot of people would go to Times Square. I'm guessing that's going to be kibosh this year. I think they're going to have New Year's Eve shows, but they probably close off Times Square, I would imagine. Here in Maryland, a lot of bars and restaurants, if they are allowed to be opened at all, they're only able to do so till 10 o'clock. Some jurisdictions, like Baltimore City itself, they banned that altogether. So, the reason I'm mentioning this, folks, is Eric and I want to throw a virtual New Year's Eve party. Actually, on New Year's Eve, we will record a special episode of a brief episode of Pro Baseball World Tour. It'll probably be a pregame show. And what we are hoping to do, COVID permitting, we will premiere the show probably, I'm guessing, around 8 o'clock. I will finalize that on our Facebook page, our Twitter, and everything else. What we will do is we will have our show, and then we will watch a delayed broadcast of an ABL game that day. We're doing a delayed, obviously, because of time differences. Some parts of Australia are as many as 16 hours difference between Sydney, Australia time and United States East Coast time. So what we'll do is we'll watch it on delay on baseball.com.au's channel, which streams the ABL games, but also replays some of the games too, just like our show. You can watch and listen to that anytime you want. And what we would invite you to do is, if you, on your laptop or on your device or whatever, maybe keep 2 YouTube windows, because you can use one to play the game and the other to stay on our show. We will keep the live chat going for another 3 or 4 hours. So you can talk about the game that you're watching with us. You can talk about other stuff. You can talk about New Year's, what you're eating, drinking, whatever. And I wanted to do an Australian theme with this, Eric. I wanted to include not only on our YouTube channels, but also on our Facebook, people sending pictures what they're doing for New Year's Eve, or if they were watching the game with us, or whatever. I used to be a nightclub DJ back in the day, and sometimes I would play like mixes on New Year's Eve or whatever. So what I'm going to do is, since it's thinking Australia, I was originally thinking of doing like a bunch of groups like Men at Work, Midnight Oil, In Excess, that kind of thing. But when I think of party bands, Australian or otherwise, I think of none other than AC/DC. So what I'm going to do, folks, during our live chat will be probably a 3 or 4 hour loop of AC/DC songs, and you can invite some friends over. If they don't want to watch the baseball, they want to jam out to AC/DC, they can do that. If they don't want to hear AC/DC and just want to hear the commentary of the ball game, they can do that. Or you can do both. Why not? It's all about choices. So that's what we plan on doing for New Year's Eve. So mark your calendars, New Year's Eve. I will confirm a time. I'm guessing it'll be about 8 p.m. U.S. Eastern Standard Time, or 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Check your local listings, as they say. We're going to have some fun. What do you think of that, Eric?
That actually sounds like a cool idea. I mean, we're talking about it, but now that you're actually describing it on the show that we're doing now, it sounds like a pretty cool idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like I said, I wish we could get together with friends and family, but for those of you who have a small bubble of friends and family that'll be staying or gathering with you, you can have your own little party. You can talk to other friends doing this too. You can stay home. I mean, if you can't go out anywhere, if you're in complete lockdown, hopefully you're not locked out of internet access. And if you're not, party with us. Watch some baseball with us. I'll probably even do a thing. I'll get some real steaks. I'm not going to get some from Outback, because Outback, I don't know. They're a little chintzy for my taste, but I'll probably get some of that. I might get a blooming onion from them, though. I might do that. Maybe get some Foster's oil cans. Since I'm in Baltimore, instead of shrimp on a Barbie, I might get some steamed shrimp with a whole bay. So, sounds like a party right there. I'm getting hungry and thirsty thinking about it already. So.
Yeah, you're killing me, even though I had dinner already.
Oh, man. Well, hey, I don't know. You can take the red eye to Florida and come join me if you want, man. But, I wouldn't blame you if you wanted to stay down there. It's all good. but yeah. All right. Well, regardless, we'll join each other for sure online. I don't doubt that. So, all right. So, folks, that's what we have going on. And like I said, I will post more announcements about that on our Facebook, on our YouTube, on our Twitter, and all that. And please, tell your friends. Send them this way. Send them for the baseball. Send them for the AC/DC. Send them for the Bloomin' Onion, whatever. Send them over, please. I'm begging you. Come on. But
He's pathetic when he begs, trust me, guys.
yeah, I couldn't be any more pathetic, but, well, actually, don't challenge me on that. I probably could. But anyway. Seriously, folks, thank you so much for joining us throughout the year and for this particular episode. We hope to talk to you next week and on New Year's Eve. Eric, you have any closing comments? Or?
No, that's about as good as it gets.
Okay.
In game, as we speak, the Australians still lead the Tigers 4-1. It's in the 7th inning. And an old Yankee farmhand who I didn't even know was still in baseball, Claudio Custodio, is actually pitching for the Australians right now.
Oh, nice.
He's actually looking. So let's go for it.
Okay.
See you next week.
All right. See you guys next week. Take care.